Good evening. This is Will from Will's Tarot Path, and I hope you're doing well. I'm here to do a walkthrough on the Tarot Emblemata. I had received a nice note from Robin from Toadstool Tarot, whom I try to watch on Saturday mornings as frequently as I can, which is, I would say, 90% of the time at least. He just does a really good job of communicating his view on various tarots and decks and cards, and he'll do an interview from time to time that's absolutely wonderful. He has a good rapport with the audience. I just thoroughly enjoy watching his channel, so please check him out, Robin at Toadstool Tarot, if you have a chance. But he watched my comparison of the indie deck, which this is, to the commercial deck, and then he had asked, did I miss part of the video by not having a walkthrough? And he didn't, because I didn't. But it's a good idea, and I want to thank him for that idea to follow up with just a short walkthrough video of this. Couple of odds and ends. Just remember that I will be doing the next one I do will be a walkthrough of the Black Tarot from Debray. I was going to do a full unboxing, unwrapping, all that, and I started to do that. I was filming it, and as I went through, maybe 5 or 6 cards, I had to stop and look at each image because I was truly blown away by the depth of meaning I was pulling with my intuition in these cards. And then, of course, I got curious. It's like, well, how does my intuition match with what the author intent was? And so it was really quite an experience. And I said, well, I just need to stop and go through the deck and get a feel for it before I introduce it. But look for that. It's a beautiful deck. And I think that if you like darker decks or you like shadow work decks, that will be one of the top of your list. And it is one of the best-selling ones that they have right now, according to their website. All right. So the Tarot Emblemata, the book, I'll go through that really quickly again. Renaissance emblems from the 16th century, curated from French writer and historian Claude Perrodin's emblem book, Devises and Heroics, first published in 1551 in Lyon, France. So these symbols come from this book. Now, the phrases were written in the tradition of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. So for expansive emblem interpretations, see page 188. Tarot Emblemata Companion Guide. So that's the separate book you would need to buy from this. I'll put that up there so you can get the address down if you need to, but it's uraniapress.com is where this deck comes from. They still had it available. They also have a black edition, which is just black and I think gold stamping for instead of colors, which is really beautiful. I just preferred this one. This suits my tone better. So it has more on the book. And then, of course, now I do want to go into it. Doesn't really get into the depth of the symbolism here or the added meaning of the Latin or how those came about. But this is pretty much your standard little white book, RWS. And I think you'll find that the deck reads very much RWS. I think it lends itself to some open interpretation due to the symbols and the language. And then I did want to go over the tuck box real quick because it does come in a tuck box. I want to go over these emblems. The words here are embossed. The cup is embossed on the edges, the flowers, the words here, these flowers, the first edition and the print there. And then on the back here, you can see there's a watermark of a fleur-de-lis, and that is embossed. The words aren't, but the fleur-de-lis is. And then the uraniapress.com is actually embossed. It's really interesting, and the flowers there. So a lot of embossing, a great rose petal feel. It's a little bit. It is thicker than your standard tuck box. So as tuck boxes go, and so many people put their tarots in pouches anymore. If you wanted to go that route and then save the box. But let me bring the camera down just a little bit. I'll go in the Fool. And I will hold these here for a second so you can get a glimpse of the words if you'd like. I think the colors are coming through nicely. I love that phoenix. Beautiful. I did not purchase the book separate. Well, I did and I didn't. I didn't purchase the indie book. I purchased the commercial deck to do the side-by-side comparison, and the commercial book comes with the full book. It's a different color. I think just a tiny bit smaller size, but it's a regular sized book. Oh, here it is right here. So as you see, so this is the book that comes with the deck, and every card has 1 1/3 to 2 pages. Even the minors and the majors, same treatment, and that's where you'll get the meaning for them. But the commercial deck is $30. The independent book is $25 plus shipping. I bought my deck from Amazon, so it was free shipping. So that with the book, it's the same price. So I bought the commercial deck so I could do the walkthrough, and I'm using that book because my understanding is the book is the same except for the color of the cover. Chariot. I just sit here and think, now I know the Latin phrases, some of them I recognize, some of them are standby, some of them look like things that maybe were pulled from church manuscripts. I spent some time learning church Latin, and so in the Roman church, and some of it goes back to that, but most of it I think was taken from old phrases or written to better match the RWS. So, but it does have the Latin and the English. The images come from the Book of Emblems from the late 1500s, early 1600s. And when I look at these images, that's where I was going. When I look at these images, to think that they are 500 years old and they have this depth. Well, I don't know why they wouldn't have a depth of meaning, but just the time frame between when they were drawn and now here we are using them. And I think it's beautiful that they are being utilized in a way in which emblems are used naturally. They're not being forced in or pushed in. They're not decorating a coffee mug to gain popularity. They are being used in a manner. Emblems were drawn to represent things, to evoke feelings, and I think these are matched well with not only the suits, but the major arcana. I think did a beautiful job of representing those. Two of Cups. Perfect example, simple. Ditat servatad fides. Fidelity enricheth. When you work together in a partnership, both sides benefit, whether it be business, personal, friendship, brotherhood, sisterhood, just humanity working together. Beautiful. This one struck me especially strong. I run out on every side, the Five of Cups. I just love that. I love the suns in these images. They're not all the same, but I love the colors they used for them, and I like the sun in images, especially in this deck. Eight of Cups. 9. 10. Page. Queen. Oh, look at the wreath on the line. Beautiful. Knight. Oh, I had those reversed. I'd gone through and put these in order. I must have slipped one. King. Ace of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles. This could represent several things. The balance between two sides, a sharing or a coming together. That's what I mean. These images, sometimes they pull out more meaning than what I would expect from a card like this with just an emblem and a statement. Equal conjuncture might confirm certainty. So, but looking at this, depending on the reading, depending on the question, depending on the querent, it could be a pulling apart or a coming together, or a need to come together. Or just so many different ways to look at it. It's beautiful. This cardstock, and like I said, once again, it's not about the thickness. These are not thick. It's not about the flexibility. These are very flexible and pliable. It's about the structure. Will they come back and lay flat? And these do come back and lie flat. It's a matte finish. And I remembered the coating. I couldn't think of what I was trying to say when I was describing it in my comparison. The UV coating. It's not a laminate, but it's a, or maybe it is a type of laminate, but I know the UV coating is different than regular laminate, and it gives it that, it still preserves the feel of the paper, protecting it at the same time. It might add just a touch of smoothness to it, but it doesn't give it that plasticky feel at all. 9 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles. One thing this deck does, though, is it gives you some oracle cards, and we'll go through those at the end. There's 5. I believe it's 5. And I just thought that was just a beautiful little addition. And they're added in the deck. They're the same size. They're not larger, which I think is nice, because what I did a few times reading with these is I left them in as additions. And then if not accidentally, if one came up in my draw, say if I was doing with my 2-card evening draw, I'll show you that at the end, then, and one of them was those cards, then I would pull another card until I had 2 of the tarot deck, and then the oracle would just be for clarity, or to bring them together, or overall a message, or one to join them. However it fit, I would fit it. And I do a 2-card reading every evening. I saw this practice, and I can't remember if it was in a book. I'm reading several books right now. I can't remember if it was in one of the books I'm reading, or if it was one I saw in one of the YouTube videos. And if it is a YouTube video and I can't remember, and I'm not crediting the person, please forgive me. But I think it's fairly common, the 2-card reading. I've not used it before. It's you draw 2 cards, and the first card for me is, what am I going to keep from this day? This is an evening reading. What am I going to keep from this day? And the second card is, what am I going to leave behind? And as I've used it, I found it to be very good for me. It helps me focus on something important and something good, hopefully, but something important and meaningful, and something that maybe during the day felt weighty, felt important, felt like it was, but it was just turned out to be a time suck. And I was just, so to speak, chasing my tail in circles, trying to accomplish this thing. And I could leave it behind, because now I realize that that wasn't the purpose of, that was not serving my higher good. That was not serving the good of any purpose of the people around me. It was a wild goose chase. And as I said before, I do work in education, and getting lost in the bureaucracy of the powers that be can oftentimes seem overwhelming and take over like a wave that just comes crashing in, and all you're trying to do is get someone the services they need to be successful. I'm an advocate for people with disabilities, and I have to remind myself of my focus, recenter, reconnect, and put the bureaucracy in my mind in its place. Remind myself constantly of the serenity prayer. What is it? Give me the strength to accept the things I cannot change, and the strength to accept the things I can. So there's a lot of that in my line of work. Wow, that's interesting. Loss, grief, despair. If my Latin were not as rusty as it currently is, I would try to read more of these for you, but Ten of Swords. Dead end, betrayal, tragedy, defeat of spirit. Almost looks like some sort of a backpack, doesn't it? And of course, if you had the book, then some of that information would be in here as to what some of these emblems are that we are may not quite sure of. Knight of Swords without falsehood or deceit. Wow, that's good. I like that. Queen of Swords. King. Libations. These are the oracle cards. These are beautiful. Hence the light and sacred droughts. Now this one is interesting. Fortune to the planet. The benefic and reverses the malefic. And I know that is astrology based, and I know it has to do with the positions of whether it's good energy or bad energy, I think. But that's one thing I've just started reading a little bit about. I don't know about astrology, but I know I was listening to a podcast today, Fortune's Wheelhouse, Benabel Wynn and M. Malene, Fortune's Wheelhouse on the Thoth Tarot, and she actually used that word. It was in the benefic phase, and I'm like, okay. So, but there it is. There's my reference. So I knew they were talking about the alignment of the stars in some form or fashion, and the planets and the powers that be. Sovereignty. The stars incline us, they do not bind us. I like that one. Chimera. All holy and divine things. I think Chimera is an asteroid. I think. The Caduceus, or Caduceus, or Caduceus. I've heard it pronounced several different ways, and I'm not quite sure which one is which. And my choir meister is not here, and I would ask him because he knows Latin excellently. But that would be years ago, because that was years ago. Ancestors. Daemon. If the divine is with us, who can be against us? Interwoven in the nature of things. That's would be an interesting addition to a reading. Regeneration. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. That's all. That would almost make a beautiful death card. It would make a beautiful death card. And then good company. A company of falcons. So that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you were able to see some of the cards, and I think I was hoping I would go slow enough that where you could read the cards and see some of them, but not so slow that it would be boring. But it is evening here where I am. It's about 7 o'clock. I had a long day at work today. I think I fought the good fight. And maybe helped some people get the sources they needed. But so I'll do my reading just to sort of show you how I do it. Now, I've read a lot on, and I've seen different people do, oh, well, if you shuffle it this many times or shuffle it that way and then cut it this way. I just shuffle while I ask my question, and sort of I would get into the habit of Now, sometimes I just shuffle and it's meditative. Oops, see, there I go. And that's fine. If it's comforting and calming my brain, then I will just do that. But I can get in this feeling of, well, I'm supposed to feel something. I'm supposed to know when to stop. And then I start questioning, did I shuffle too much? Did I shuffle too little? And now this is at the beginning of my tarot practice. I was trying to do everything right, everything by the rules. And the more I watched, the more I read, the more I watched Tarot Tube, the more books I read from different people, different articles, the more I realized that there are a million different ways to do it, and everyone eventually finds their own way. And so what I have done, and I'm shuffling now because I'm talking, what I have done is discover that while I'm shuffling, the time it takes me to think about my query 3 times, and then at the 3 times, I'm done. So the question I'll ask tonight is, what should I take from today, and what should I leave behind? And I close my eyes. I don't look at the cards while I'm doing it. And I'm closing my eyes now. And I separate them, and then it's just, this maybe is my feeling then. I get to a point and I'm like, okay, right there, and I stop. But if I were looking at them, I would be going, well, what about the card that was under that one? What about the one that was on top of that one? Was it supposed to stop where? I would drive myself nuts. So I usually hand over hand shuffle 3 times, once while I ask the question, once for each time I ask the question, stop, and then I cut the cards, and then I just take the top 2. What shall I keep? What shall I leave behind? And I will just do a quick little, what shall I keep? Well, this is speaking to the work I'm doing and the fruits it's showing and the people I'm helping. And this really hits home because there have been a couple of students lately that really needed someone to sort of have their back. And they crossed my path, and I think they crossed my path for a reason. Because even though I may not be the person that ends up helping them completely, I am a person that will say, no, you're not going to be skipped over. And I'm going to, at least if I do everything I can in my power. And then I see that fruit of my labors from other students I've helped, other successes, other post-school experiences be successful. And so this is the part I should keep from today. It tells me that, because it's been really hard the last couple of days, it's been very mentally taxing, finding the information I needed, getting the services lined up I needed, getting the meetings set I needed. It's just been very taxing. And this tells me that, yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of hard work, but there is a harvest to be had. What shall I let go of? Mastery of skills brings profit. I should let go of any idea that there will be any sort of award or prize, either through accolades or good employee stuff or promotions. I shouldn't even think about benefiting personally from this, other than to see my labors provide a harvest. It's a harvest. It's an award for everyone. It's not for my personal gain. And that's what I get from that. So that's how I do my 2-card reading, and I think about it like that. I will sit there and ponder it for a while and meditate on it. I still haven't gotten my morning reading nailed down. I'm still trying out a few, but this 2-card reading really, really works for me. And then if at the end of that, I still feel like I need not from the tarot, but I might pull an oracle card for like, what energy should I have around this? How should I feel about this sort of thing? So that is the Tarot Emblemata, how I do my nightly pull. And one little symbol and one little phrase have just pulled me into this whole. I never thought I would have gotten that out of the Seven of Pentacles. What I got tonight. And that deck did it. And maybe it is because it's minimal. It's not giving you all the picture, and in that way, maybe that's a good way for me to practice my intuition. But if it's one you'll use a lot and you want to handle it and use it a lot, I suggest getting the indie deck. But for me, I plan on having this a long time and using it regularly. So that's my video for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was educational and gave you knowledge that will be useful to you. And